Okay, great. Let's start. I don't think anyone else is joining. Guys, please turn on your cameras. I am going to share my
Yes, ma'am.
screen. Tell me once it is visible. Pranjali, I cannot see you. Okay, now I can see you. Okay, great. Okay, listening chapter, listening section, whatever you want to call it. Now, we discussed the detailed questions that day, correct? We discussed the
Yeah.
just purpose, just content question also that day, correct? We have discussed three types of questions. Now, we will go to the next type of question, that is understanding questions. Now, pragmatic understanding questions are a little difficult to more than what they are trying to say, why they are saying. That is where attitude about what they are trying to say, they are saying it. Understood? And what is the in
Yes,
pragmatic
ma'am.
understanding
Yes.
questions? Now, sometimes or we get the option of replay audio over here also. मतलब कुछ questions है उनके लिए ऑडियो का पार्ट कुछ questions है उनके लिए ऑडियो का पार्ट उतना ही पार्ट सिर्फ 5 minutes they might ask you why does the professor say this and you okay say this कि वो ये क्यों बोलता है okay say this कि वो ये क्यों बोलता है so that's where we have to focus I would say okay now let's look at the first question that we have that is the function question as I told you function question के लिए always replay का option आएगा ही आएगा you will always get a replay option over here what does the professor trying to say so if you remember that conversation that's the audio we will listen to we heard a conversation between a professor who were discussing about a team and how they are so in that he says oh family is very important so that audio part will be played and they might same way they can ask you why does the student say this why does the or what does the professor mean when she says this he or she depending on the gender over there they might ask you and they will give you the replay option okay that's where you have to listen and try to gauge now over here remember that the function of what is said may not match on they will give you will be very different from what he's trying to say over here and okay so over here also you have some conversations I had told you in the last class okay now, let's listen to the audio over here. Just give me 1 minute. I want to share my screen. Function. Function. Okay. Okay.
I'm Michael from ETS. Today on Inside the TOEFL Test, we're going inside the TOEFL IBT listening section, specifically the function questions. Function questions ask you to identify a statement in a given context, because a statement can have different meanings depending on the situation. In other words, the real meaning is different from the surface or literal meaning. For example, if you're in a room with other people and someone says, "It's getting chilly in here," what they might really be saying is, "Could someone close the window?" You can recognize function questions because they include phrases like, "What does the professor mean when he says?" or "Why does the student say?" Now let's look at a sample question from a conversation between a coach and a student who are catching up on what happened while the student was away. Here's an excerpt from the conversation.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hey, Coach. I just thought I'd stop by to see what yours.
So it was worth the trip.
Oh, definitely. I'm sorry I had to miss practice, though. I feel bad about that.
Family's very important.
Yep. Okay, I guess I'll see you this afternoon at practice then.
Here's an example of a function question.
Try answering it. The same sentence which I told you. Family is very important, he says. Correct? Now, the options which are given over here are a little different than what the exact statement is. That is how your options will be. Guys, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, you are
Okay,
audible.
try answering the question then.
I think D will be the correct.
D.
Yes, yes, same.
Okay, the woman had a reason for missing practice. Okay, let's
Yeah.
look at the answer.
What does the man mean when he says family's very important? When looking at the answer options, think about the context of the conversation to miss practice. So D is the correct answer. Here's a tip for building your listening skills.
Now, trust me, it is easy when it comes in a lecture. It's a little difficult to gauge the meaning over there. Okay, here it was a conversation, and the options were pretty easy and straightforward. Option T, A and B, we can easily eliminate them. Correct? So, it was
Yes, ma'am.
easy over here. But actually, when it comes in the lecture, sometimes it gets difficult over there. Okay, so that's where you will need to pay attention.
That can also help with function questions. When listening to a passage, ask yourself what the speaker is really doing by saying certain things. The speaker may be doing things like directing, recommending, complaining, agreeing or disagreeing, questioning, or confirming. When you know these types of intentions,
Write this down. वो कुछ तो बता रहे हैं, directions दे रहे हैं, or he is recommending something, he is complaining, or he agrees or disagrees on something, or he is questioning something or confirming something. Okay, gauge over here or say over here in these function questions. Understood?
Yes.
Okay.
and that they often happen beneath the surface of what is said, they can help you identify the function of what is said more easily. There are lots of ways to improve your English skills.
Is our questions related to understanding the speaker's attitude. It is similar to what we looked at function, but a little different. Here we have to understand the opinion or the attitude that the speaker has. That's what we are trying to do over here. You may be asked the questions about speaker's feelings, likes and dislikes, or the speaker's degree of certainty. Is the speaker referencing a source or giving a personal opinion? That is also would be something like what can be who is the would be something like what can be who is the professor.
We're going inside the TOEFL IBT listening organization questions. Why does the professor mention? These kinds of phrases show that organization questions are often for examples, and think about why the professor is using them.
He's eccentric. He has a hobby that he's obsessive about. In this case, it's the love of roses. He's a fanatic about the breeding of roses. And here, think of Nero Wolfe and his orchids, Sherlock Holmes and his violin. A lot of those later classic detective heroes have this kind of outside interest that they go to as a kind of antidote to the evil and misery they encounter in their. These detectives see things that other people do not see. And that's why the detective is such an. In the case of the Moonstone, I don't want to say too much here and spoil it for you, but the clue that's key to the solving of the crime is a smeared bit of paint in a doorway. Of course, the regular police have missed this paint smear of unwarranted assumption about it. Cuff sees this smear of paint, the whole situation, the whole world. And that's what the hero in a detective novel like this brings to it that the other characters don't. It's this ability to see meaning where others see no meaning, and to where others see no meaning, and to bring order to where it seems there is.
Here's an example of an organization question. Why does the professor doorway in the doorway in the
Try answering. Did you observe how much detail he went into?
Ma'am, it's C.
C.
Ma'am, it's C.
C. To exemplify many other detective stories. Okay. Ranjari, what do you observe?
Moonstone? Let's look at the answer choices one at a time. Moonstone. Let's look at the answer choices one at a time. He states that noticing the smeared paint is not a mistake. Option C is the best answer because the professor talks about hero detectives and mystery novels and the characteristics they have in common. It indicates that there is a pattern when he
Very good.
help you understand how a lecture is organized. Listen for the signal words that indicate the introduction, major ideas, examples, and the conclusion.
Done? So to tell to give examples and in conclusion to summarize are used to conclude something, give conclusion basically. Okay. So you have to listen to these words while listening to the audio. They become very important, but you have to use
Terminology, like before, during, or since. Or they could show cause and effect, like accordingly, or these signal words are good cues for when to take notes. There are lots of ways to improve your English skills.
Okay. Understood? Now the questions here would be framed something like this. Or how does the professor organize the information about dash dash organized? Why does the professor discuss dash dash? As I said over here, you have to give lot of examples, give lot of details. That's what you have to pay attention again. Sometimes they might ask you overall organization also. Usually they won't be after the conversation. Here, for this, you also have to understand the pattern of how it be in the audio as well. The pattern for the American lectures are. That also becomes helpful in the listening part. As I said,
Done, ma'am.
okay, done with all
Yes.
three. Okay, for the question number
Till
5.
question 4.
Okay, for question number 5, look at the question and the options, and then I'll play the audio. Done? Shall I play the audio?
Yes.
Okay.
Listen again to part of the conversation, then answer the question.
You know, you have to remember now that you're the expert on what you've done. So think about what you'd need to include if you were going to explain your real or casual knowledge about the subject, like your parents. That's usually my rule of
Question number 1.
C.
C.
That's correct because it is a just quick questions about how to write up the research project I did this semester. A report that he is writing. Correct? Because research project
Yeah.
as it is तो नहीं दिया है यहाँ पर, so we will use the word report instead. Okay. Now the question number 2. Report instead. Okay. Now the question number 2. About you.
The climate chat and
statistic test.
Are included will not be.
Here it gets a little more complicated for me. Health is important for me because I can't do other things I want to do, play music, teach philosophy, if I'm ill. So health is important to me, has value to me as a means to a productive life. But health is also important to me because I just kind of like to be healthy. It feels good. It's pleasant to be healthy, unpleasant not to be. So to some degree, I value health both for itself and as a means to something else, productivity. It's got extrinsic and intrinsic value for me. Then there's some things that are just valued for themselves. I'm a musician, not a professional musician. I just play a musical. Why do I value playing music? Well, like most amateur musicians, I only play because, well, I just enjoy it. It's something that's an end in itself. Now, something else I value is teaching. Why? Well, it brings in a modest income, but I could make more money doing other things. I'd do it even if they didn't pay me. I just enjoy teaching. In that sense, it's an end to itself. But teaching's not something that has intrinsic value for all people. And that's true generally. Most things that are enjoyed in and of themselves vary from person to person. Some people value teaching intrinsically, but others don't. So how does all this relate to human happiness? Well, Aristotle asks, is there something that all human beings value, and value only intrinsically, for its own sake and only for its own sake? If you could find such a thing, that would be the universal final good, or truly the ultimate purpose or goal for all human beings. Aristotle thought the answer was yes. What is it? Seek it. It's the goal we have in life. But what is it? How do we find it? Here, he notes, with some frustration, people disagree. But he does give us a couple of criteria or features to keep in mind as we look for what true human happiness is. True human happiness should be, as he puts it, complete. Complete in that it's all we require. Well, true human happiness, if you had that, what else do you need? Nothing. And second, true happiness should be something that I can obtain on my own. I shouldn't have to rely on other people for it. Many people value fame and seek fame. Fame for them becomes the goal, but it won't work either because fame depends altogether too much on other people.